If you're a green card holder planning to travel outside the United States, what I'm about to tell you could save you from losing your permanent residency at the airport. I'm not exaggerating. This is happening right now, and thousands of green card holders have no idea they're putting everything at risk. Imagine this. You land at JFK after visiting family back home. You've had your green card for 3 years. You walk up to the immigration officer feeling confident. But instead of a quick stamp and welcome back, the officer pulls you aside. They start asking questions. How long were you gone? Where did you stay? Do you have a job here? And then, the words you never expected to hear. We need to take your green card. This isn't a movie scene. This is actually happening to people every single week. And here's the scary part. Most of them had no idea they were doing anything wrong. They thought as long as they had that green card in their wallet, they were safe. They were wrong. So what changed? Why are immigration officers suddenly taking green cards from people who've been permanent residents for years? And more importantly, how do you make sure this doesn't happen to you? Stay with me, because what I'm about to explain could be the difference between keeping your green card and losing everything you've worked for. Here's what's going on. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has ramped up enforcement on something that's always been a rule but wasn't always strictly checked. It's called the continuous residence requirement. Now, I know that sounds like legal jargon, so let me break it down in plain English. When you become a permanent resident, the government expects you to actually live permanently in the United States. I mean, it's right there in the name, right? Permanent resident. The problem is, a lot of people treat their green card like an unlimited travel pass. They think they can live wherever they want and just visit the US once in a while to keep their status. That's not how it works. The official rule says if you leave the United States for more than 6 months, immigration officers can question whether you've abandoned your permanent residency. Notice I said can question, not will automatically take it away. But here's where it gets tricky. If you're gone for more than 1 year without getting special permission first, your green card is basically invalid. You can't just show up at the airport and expect to be let back in. But even trips shorter than 6 months can get you in trouble if the officer thinks you're not really living in the United States anymore. And this is where people are getting shocked at the border right now. They stayed under 6 months. They came back. They thought they were fine. But the immigration officer looked at their travel pattern over the past few years and said, "You're not actually living here, are you?" Let me give you a real example of how this plays out. Let's say you're from India. You got your green card 2 years ago. You have an apartment in New Jersey, but your aging parents are back in Mumbai. You travel to India every 4 months and stay for 3 months each time. Technically, none of your individual trips are longer than 6 months. But when you add it up, you're spending most of your time outside the United States. An immigration officer sees this pattern and can make the case that you've abandoned your residency. They can take your green card right there. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I have a good reason. My parents are sick. I have business. I have family. I understand. Life is complicated. But here's the hard truth. The law doesn't care about your reasons unless you follow the proper procedures beforehand. And that's what most people are missing. If you know you need to stay outside the United States for more than 6 months, there's something called a reentry permit. You apply for it before you leave. It allows you to stay outside the country for up to 2 years without abandoning your permanent residency. It costs money, yes. You have to do biometrics, yes. But it protects your green card. Most people don't bother with this because they think they'll be fine. And then they're not. Here's another thing that's catching people off guard. Social media and travel patterns are being looked at more closely now. If your social media shows you living your daily life in another country, posting about your home abroad, checking in at restaurants in Mumbai or Manila or Mexico City week after week, immigration officers can use that as evidence. They can see where you're really living. Some people have literally lost their green cards because their own Instagram proved they weren't living in the United States. And it's not just social media. Officers can look at your tax returns or lack of them. If you haven't been filing U.S. taxes, that's a red flag. They can ask about your job. If you don't have one in the United States but you're working full-time abroad, that's another red flag. They can ask where your kids go to school, where your spouse lives, where you get your mail. All of these things paint a picture. And if that picture shows you're not really living in America, your green card is at risk. Now, let me address something I've been seeing all over social media because there's a lot of confusion and flat-out wrong information being spread around. I saw a TikTok last week that said green card holders can travel freely for up to 1 year with no issues. That is dangerously incorrect. Yes, 1 year is a bright line where your green card becomes technically invalid, but you can run into serious problems well before that. I've also seen people saying, just tell the officer you were visiting family and you'll be fine. That might work once, maybe twice. But if you're doing this repeatedly, they will catch on. And when they do, saying you were visiting family won't save you. They'll see the pattern. Another rumor going around is that if you have a US driver's license or bank account, that proves you live here. It helps, sure, but it's not proof on its own. Immigration officers want to see that your actual life, your center of life, is in the United States. That means where you sleep most nights, where you work, where your family is, where you pay rent or own property. A bank account you rarely use isn't going to cut it. And here's something that really surprises people. Even if you own a house in the United States, that doesn't automatically protect you. I've heard from green card holders who own property in Florida or California, but they're living abroad most of the year. They think the house proves their ties to America. But if you're not actually living in that house, if you're renting it out or it's sitting empty while you're overseas, that's not going to convince an immigration officer that you haven't abandoned your residency. So what do you actually need to do? Let me give you the action plan that will keep your green card safe. First, if you're a green card holder, the golden rule is this: spend more time in the United States than you spend outside of it. I'm not saying you can never travel. Of course you can. But your primary home needs to be here. If you're traveling frequently, make sure your trips are short and you're coming back regularly. Second, if you absolutely must stay outside the United States for more than 6 months, apply for a reentry permit before you go. You file Form I-131. You do it while you're still in the United States. You attend your biometrics appointment, then you can leave and stay abroad for up to 2 years without abandoning your status. Yes, it costs around $460 right now. Yes, it takes time. But it's a whole lot cheaper than losing your green card and having to start your immigration journey all over again. Third, keep evidence of your U.S. ties. File your taxes every year, even if you're abroad part of the time. Keep proof of where you live, your lease, or mortgage. If you have a job, keep your pay stubs. If you have kids in U.S. schools, keep their enrollment records. If you're traveling for a specific temporary reason, like caring for a sick parent, keep medical records or documents that show it's temporary. You want to be able to prove to an officer that your life is here, not somewhere else. Fourth, be smart about what you post on social media. I'm not saying delete your accounts, but be aware that immigration officers can and do look at this stuff. If your entire online presence makes it look like you live in another country, that's going to hurt you. And fifth, if you're already in a situation where you've been outside the United States for close to 6 months or longer, get legal help before you travel back. Talk to an immigration attorney. They can help you prepare for what to say at the border and what documents to bring. Sometimes they can even accompany you to the port of entry. Don't just wing it and hope for the best. Here's the bottom line. The U.S. government is cracking down on green card holders who are abusing the system by living abroad while claiming permanent residency in America. And honestly, it makes sense. If you want the benefits of being a permanent resident, you need to actually be a resident. The rules haven't really changed, but the enforcement has gotten much stricter. Officers are asking more questions. They're looking at travel patterns more carefully. They're checking social media. They're denying entry to people who they believe have abandoned their status. I'm Joe from US Visa Path, and I'm here to keep your American dream safe. I've seen too many people lose their green cards because they didn't understand these rules or because they thought they could bend them just a little bit. Don't let that be you. If you found this video helpful, if you learned something that could protect your status, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update that could affect your visa or green card. Immigration rules are changing all the time, and staying informed is the best way to stay safe. And if you know someone who's a green card holder, especially someone who travels a lot, share this video with them. You might save them from a devastating situation at the airport. The information in this video could be worth thousands of dollars and years of their life. Remember, your green card is not just a card, it's your future in America. Protect it, understand the rules, follow them, and if you're not sure about your situation, get professional help. Don't gamble with something this important. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.